All right, gamers, guide time. So here's the deal. I don't really know how to do all the numbers stuff on the guns. I just kind of know how to build guns that feel good to me, and I think that's kind of how you should go about it too. So basically what I'm going to do today is kind of explain to my knowledge how building guns works in this game, and kind of little secrets or little tips and tricks you may not know about, and I'll kind of go over 3 different guns that I think you can build in quite different ways to feel different, and why you should build them in certain ways. The first build I want to go over is the AKM, but before we get into that, I just want to go over some of the base stats you need to understand. Now, again, I don't know all the nitpicky details and stuff, so I'm just going to go over what matters to me. Damage, pretty self-explanatory. Per bullet, that's how much the gun is going to do. Ammo will depend on this, but that's also involves penetration and stuff like that. Range, don't really worry about it. Honestly, I've never had a gun feel like a build mattered because of the range. The only thing you have to note is that certain guns do have, or all guns do have damage fall off, so like SMGs at distance, rifle, and ARs aren't going to do that well compared to snipers and marksman rifles, quite obviously. Control, this is your big one. Most people focus on this one because this is the vertical recoil of the gun. So this is what kind of just controls what most people understand as recoil. Next, you have handling. This is how fast your gun comes up after sprinting. This is how fast you're going to be ADSing. This is how fast you're going to be moving with the gun. Stability is the horizontal recoil left to right. This is a bit of an underrated one and became more impactful with the Season 2 update. Stability a lot of times is more important than other stats, I think, now. And finally, you have accuracy, another really slept on stat. Accuracy is going to make your hipfire feel a lot better. That's what it makes your hipfire, just basically makes your crosshair smaller or bigger. And for a lot of guns, I think that could be the key that a lot of people are missing. So now that we know how the stats are going to work, I'm going to go over the AKM first. So what you need to understand about this gun is that it's extremely polarizing. People either love it or hate it. This also, I think, is potentially the best budget meta gun, because a lot of these builds can actually be made cheaper than a SCAR, M7, M14, what people consider to be the meta builds in this game right now. So the main thing to know with the AKM is that the recoil pattern is way different. The initial few bullets will actually kick down compared to the other rifles where they'll kick up. Therefore, you may not want to focus as much on control. This is why I wanted to select this gun. So this is the build that I use. My main focus on this build has been stability and accuracy. What you're going to see is my stats are not the best compared to some of these other builds. Like, you can actually get better stats on the gun. That doesn't mean it's better necessarily. This is why you kind of have to move the calibrations. You have to change how it's feeling. You don't know how it's going to kind of shoot until you test it. This is another big tip, is make sure you test your builds, because calibrations will heavily impact how your gun shoots. So like, just with this grip, I've changed 4% more extra control plus 16% stability while moving. This is important because the way I play, ADS movement speed and ADS speed doesn't matter as much when I'm using this type of gun. The way I peek a lot of times is I'm jump peeking around corners, or I'm jiggle peeking around corners, doing this sort of peek. Otherwise, I'm jumping and peeking. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing a lot of walking. So this type of stat does not bother me. Now, this isn't the case for everyone. You might want to build your gun so you have faster walk speed, because guns do feel really great when you're able to move fast with them. But this is why it just depends on you. So my AKM is focused again on stability and accuracy. So I don't want it moving left to right, and when I jump on people, I want my hip fire to feel decent, right? So that's why I built this gun this way, but you can build the AKM in a bunch of different ways. This is why I think it's important to kind of note certain builds and why they're different than others. So you can see I have a bunch of different builds here. A lot of them are going to feel similar, but there's just teeny little changes there. I built my AKM so that it actually kicks up more and it feels like the other guns. So my control is way lower of a number compared to some people's quote unquote meta builds. But again, my stability is going to be higher. My accuracy is going to be higher. The one little tip I'm gonna give to you right now that a lot of people don't know, that's slept on: in all of my builds, I have these patches on all of my builds. This is a really underrated thing, I think. All of these patches do is usually give you +1 in a certain stat. So this one gives you stability, handling, control, and then control. What the Hornet does, though, is actually gives you +4 accuracy. So accuracy is a bit of, again, a slept on stat. However, as you can see, for a 1-slot item, you can either get +1, +1, +4, +1, +1, +1. I think I would rather have +4 on multiple patches than just having +1 of an individual stat, right? So again, this is specific to my AKM, but it's across all my builds if you actually look at them. So instead of getting, let's see, instead of getting +3 stability here, if I wanted to get +3 more stability, I'm actually getting +12 accuracy. I try to build my guns more towards, you know, control, handling, stability in other ways, and then a lot of times I make up for my accuracy with just the patches. This is something to take note of, and on pretty much every gun I use, I do this. And then if you guys want to see just my builds in general, if you join my Discord in the description below, I have all of my builds in the build channel. I update that constantly. If you're curious about any of the builds throughout this video or any other guns I use, I probably have a build there. So make sure you guys check that out. He's on the right somewhere?
There's
Yeah.
I'm holding right now. Not left.
Yeah.
Wipe.
nice.
Okay, we can try to get chaps, but we lost our smoke.
28 seconds on my.
I'm gonna try to suppress this guy over there. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna try to shoot the sniper.
I just gotta try.
Knock sniper.
One's dead.
See forward.
The one on the staircase.
he's
One
on
on
me.
the staircase.
I think he dashed backwards. Or he's pushing me. Knock.
He's
Yeah. One below.
Downstairs, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god. Please, chat. The finesse of that. All right, number 2, looking at our second gun of the day, is going to be the K4. Now, this is also an interesting one because season 1, I think this is one of the best guns in the game. And now, looking into season 2, I actually don't think it's one of the best. And I think it really struggles in certain areas, but it's an important gun to note because I think this gun always feels good. Even if it's not killing quickly, it just feels amazing to shoot. And it's really cool because you can build this in multiple ways, which I'll be showing you here. So the first build is something I loved using when I was running a sniper, and I basically built a K4 that was an SMG. This is a short barrel. It has the risers. It's all about handling and accuracy. So this is a great example of like building the same gun completely differently. So in the firing range, you're going to see this thing's crosshair is really tight. Moving around with it's going to feel really good. The handling's insane. You pretty much just instantly ADS. And I basically don't care about the stability or recoil as much because the majority of the time I'm doing this to people. This is what this gun's used for. It's just absolutely jumping on people. And there's no reason for you to like work on stability or control when you're building a gun like this, because anything at longer range, I'm going to be using the sniper for. This is one example on the K4. Now, the second one is my season 2 build where I focus more on having a longer mag and then having that really sick control to feel like I can be confident ripping people off head glitches and stuff like this. So this thing's obviously a beam, and I feel confident multi-killing because I have the 45 mag on this. Now, one tip I want to note with this gun specifically, and just another thing if you guys don't know about, scopes have passive stats as well. Now, the scope I prefer most of the time is this Recon 1x5 because if you notice here, it actually has like plus stability. So you lose handling, but there is plus stability on this. So for these guns like the AKM or like the K4 that can tend to move a lot more left to right, the Recon will help you additionally. Compared to using something like this, you gain other stats, but you actually lose out on that stability. So the same build could feel completely different just based on the scope too. The common ones to note is the Recon 1x5 for stability, the M157 for its rangefinder ability, the LPVO gives you a handling boost. As you see here, this is not the passive handling boost, but it actually gives you +2 handling here. And I think that's all for the purple scopes, but that's something to note here because a lot of my builds, it's not just because I like the sight when I zoom in here, it's actually because of like stat differences too. Fuck it, I'm trying to push up. Resin. Wipe out. I think there's more people though. Potentially. Pushing. Close yellow.
Legendary. One's close left
one.
still.
I knocked one. Resin behind Byron. Can you guys like hard pressure right now?
Side.
He's off.
Inside.
No. Knock Byron. And finally, my beautiful, beautiful Scar. This is probably the most iconic gun in the game so far, partially because it has the Mandelbrick skins, which obviously this skin is gorgeous. This is my Rune 2H, but it's also been one of the most consistent guns across all patches. So season 1, I think hands down, this is the best gun in the game. Looking at season 2, I don't think that anymore, but I still think it is one of the meta guns, and it's a good example of a gun that can be built in a lot of different ways too. Here, I want to kind of just showcase some other secrets about building guns and things you might not know about, why I use some of the attachments I use. The Scar here, it's honestly nothing too special. This is just mainly me trying to build a gun that's well-rounded. The Scar got hit pretty hard by the stability nerf in season 2, so I can't get as much handling as I liked on it previously. So I focus more on stability here, but I still feel like it feels good in the range or just when using it. I still feel like I have enough handling to be quickly fighting angles, but at range, it feels way more like a beam. And I feel confident with it. pretty much at any range. Now, this is an interesting gun because I think of its variability. Again, you can kind of build like these more short barrel builds and kind of get away with doing more things towards handling. This thing can also, with a long barrel, be a beam at range. So that's something to take note of. Now, I want to talk about calibrating. This is a pretty confusing thing to a lot of people. It still can be confusing to me. I don't think people have min-maxed this to the fullest, but I do think you should try to calibrate all of your build. Really, again, the key to this is just testing. Go in, mess with these, and figure out once you adjust it, test it in the range, see if it feels good. Here's some stats I don't care for though. Muzzle velocity, never could tell the difference what that is. If I ever see muzzle velocity in calibrations, I'm immediately cranking that down and I'm going to be gaining something else for it. So I gain 3% ADS speed if I get rid of 9% muzzle velocity. I go for stability again because that same thing I talked about previously, ADS movement doesn't affect me as much. I'm looking at like the rear grip. I only changed here like aiming stability while breathing. The main things you want to look out for when calibrating a gun, I think, is stability. A lot of attachments you can build towards stability. I think that's good. So when I'm moving and shooting, the gun's not moving left and right as much here. And then for this stock, this is another thing where you can build more towards having more stability or ADS speed or control. So a lot of times, again, you can build a gun a certain way with attachments, but then you can do more to it afterwards if you calibrate. I'm not going to be here telling you what's the best thing, what's the best calibrations. It's really about testing it, but it's important that you do calibrate your guns because I promise you they will feel better afterwards. And finally, the tip and the question I get asked about all the time, why this, why that, is the rails. So I'm going to go over both, why they're so important. By rails, I mean these attachments right here on my gun. The laser and the flashlight, which you will see on every single one of my builds because it is that important. I think you should be running these two on every single one of your builds. Now, here's why. The laser gives you insane hidden accuracy and handling bonuses. So when the flashlight is off, your gun is going to feel way slower and I lose accuracy. Pay attention to my crosshair here. When I turn it back on, I gain accuracy, the hip fire becomes tighter, and my ADS is way faster. So what's important to note here is every gun you use when the laser's on, you gain insane handling accuracy bonuses. Now, the negative is that obviously people can see your laser. Now, one, in certain areas, especially outdoors, you're never going to see lasers for the most part. When you're indoors holding an angle, you can just hit the bind to turn it off, right? So if you're holding an angle, guys, just turn the laser off. And once you're done holding the angle, turn it back on and move, right? It's the same bind as whatever your allowed tactical devices is. And then you can hold that button to turn them on and off. Now, secondly, the flashlight. Why is this so important? For one, when you're actually getting held by a flashlight, it's pretty bright. You may actually lose focus of where your target is. But a lot of times you'll see me turn off my flashlight at the start of the match. The reason for this is that I don't want people to, obviously, it can't expose your location as well, so I don't always have it on. Sometimes I'll have it on, sometimes I'll off, but majority of times I'll have it off, and the focus of it is it's actually an ability. If you go into your settings, and you go to keyboard and mouse, controls and combat, and where is it here? Well, here's your tactical device button. That's for your laser. Or screen interaction, and then activate flashlight. Now, this is a bind you're going to have to bind separately. I don't think it's bound when the game is first launched. But this is an ability that can be used. So when you actually hit this, it strobes and will blind the player. Basically, it'll put a huge white flash in the middle of their screen. A lot of times, this is what I'll use when I push people. And I'll give examples of this. But this is an active ability that you only get twice. So if you look in the bottom right of my screen, you'll see now I have 0 next to the 5 on my mouse button because that's my bind for it. So I only bring one flashlight per raid and you get 2 uses. So you got to make them count. But this is a really effective tool that basically is an extra ability that can be used on any agent. Again, I'd really focus on having a laser and flashlight on all of your builds because it will make a difference in a lot of fights and it will net you those 1v2s and 1v3s when they think they have all the right cards in their hand to play and then you bring out the flashlight, it's over. I'm trying to go balk.
I got like maybe 10 seconds here.
Knocked one. I wiped the other team. I wiped the other team.
Come on, come on.
Is there a resin? Coulda. I knocked Max. So I hope you guys learned something. If you have any other questions or ideas for future videos or other guide type content you'd like to see, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for supporting the channel so far. If you guys didn't know, I do stream this game live every day, so be sure to check out my Twitch channel. And I also stream on YouTube at the same time. Look for me there. And then in the description below, I have a link that supports me if you buy skins in this game. So do not buy skins through in-game means. Buy them through my link. You get more credits for purchasing through the link. And then it also supports me. Hope you guys all have a great night or morning wherever you are. And I'll see you in the next video.